You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls alike, welcome to the giant big top of podcasts here in the internet sky. As they like to call it, the intertubes in the sky, as some senators or House members call it. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys coming by. Remember, and you might want to tattoo this to, a part of your body. I can't offer it as some sort of service, what you can get for free. You'll have to pay for it, your local tattoo artist. But you might want to just remember this. The Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you. What kind of better family can it be? What more do you people want from me, for hell's sakes? I mean, not even your mother-in-law likes you that much. So there you go. Anyway, guys, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, and linkedin.com/Chris Voss. I have no idea why I give more accent to YouTube. It just sounds funnier and funner. We have an amazing guest on the show, and he's going to blow your mind, open the veins in your brain. I think I just invented a new shirt for the show. Open the veins in your brain. He's going to expand the blood flow to a point that you're going to think more intelligent thoughts beyond what you've ever thought before. And I know most of you listen to the show for almost 15 years. And you're like, Chris, how can I get any smarter? Well, we keep bringing you 2 to 3 new guests a day. And there's much more room. What is it they say? We only use like 5% of our brains. I think most people listen to the Chris Voss Show use about 10% or something. But I'm getting a notification from the attorneys. I can't legally say that. Anyway, guys, he is an amazing author. He's got his newest book that comes out August 22nd, 2023. And he's been sitting here listening to me ask my audience to beg them for plugs and 5-star reviews on iTunes for a while here. The name of the book is called, how many segues can I do on this damn show? The name of the book is called Containing Big Tech: How to Protect Our Civil Rights, Economy, and Democracy. Hey, these sound like cool things to protect. The book is, the author is called Tom Kemp, and he joins us on the show today, and he's going to expand your mind. And if he doesn't, well, we'll just, you can call him and ask for your money back. Tom is a Silicon Valley based CEO, entrepreneur, and investor. Tom was the founder and CEO of Centrify, renamed Delinea in 2022. He's a leading cybersecurity cloud provider. They were that amassed. I'm just having a midday, aren't I? Amassed over 2,000 enterprise customers, including over 60% of the Fortune 50. For his leadership, Tom was named Ernst & Young as a finalist for the Entrepreneur of the Year in Northern California. Tom is also an active Silicon Valley angel investor with seed investments in over a dozen tech startups. Welcome to the show, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. That's an amazing introduction. That's the best one yet. So
I fumbled a little bit through your bio there, but we try to make it sound fun, and this is the second show of the day, so I can't feel my feet. But welcome to the show. Give us your .com so we can find you on the interwebs, please.
Yeah, I'm at tomkemp.ai.
There you go. Tom Kemp AI. You got your corner of the AI market. That's the hottest new thing that's
where it's at, baby.
There you go. So, Tom, let's start out. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, I've been in Silicon Valley 30 years. I started a bunch of companies. I've been doing a bunch of policy work, including helping pass the California Proposition 24, which gave California the nation's best and first privacy law. And I've just seen a lot of bad stuff happening, and I kind of figured that I could put forth a book that hopefully gives readers a clear path forward to help them and help the country rein in online surveillance, AI, and tech monopolies.
There you go. Containing big tech. And so is there some going on with our civil rights, the economy, and democracy that maybe Silicon Valley isn't always having the best interest for?
Look, we've now have five large big tech companies. We got Meta, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and certainly they've built innovative products. They're innovative companies. It improves many aspects of our lives. But what's happening now is the intrusiveness and our dependence on them have really created some pressing threats. And it first starts with the majority of these vendors' business model, which is to collect as much information about us as possible. Now, in the past, it was about serving advertising. But what we're seeing now is that data collection is being weaponized against us. And it's kind of scary, like the amount of data, the sensitivity of the data. And then now you throw in AI, which sucks up that data and really, starts generating things and personalizing things and makes their products more addictive. And if anyone were to use TikTok, they would probably agree that it's pretty darn addicting.
Oh yeah.
And then finally, look, the fact is that these companies have evolved into monopolies, and their monopoly positions in the market actually exacerbate the problems of privacy, digital surveillance, AI bias and exploitation, et cetera. So I just wanted to put it all together, connect the dots, not only just, but not be a Debbie Downer and say, here's all the problems, but I also wanted to provide solutions both for individuals as well as policymakers.
There you go. That's what we need more of is solutions and people, you can bang on, this is wrong or stuff isn't right, but having those solutions there is really important. So, give us a little bit about your hero's journey, your story and your background. What led you to this point? What got you involved in Silicon Valley and interested in technology?
Yeah, so I grew up in Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan, go blue, and it was a history, but also a computer science major. And I just wanted to go out to Silicon Valley and see what it's about. And then when I got here, it was just amazing, the entrepreneurial spirit. And so started my career at it wasn't that big of a tech company at the time, Oracle.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they had just gone public a few years before I had joined. And then I started doing startups, right? And and then my last company, I founded it, was CEO, raised about $90 million in venture capital money. And then from there, Silicon Valley actually, entrepreneurs support other entrepreneurs, and so I'm a pretty active angel investor, which means I give seed investments. I write checks out of my own bank account to other entrepreneurs and help them start their way as well. But with all the goodness and all the hype about Silicon Valley and me living and breathing this here, I got the thinking is like, it's a double-edged sword, right? That what we have now is, especially with the large tech companies, their products are free, right? But they're actually, you become the product, right?
Yeah.
Because it's your data and their actual customer. You're not the customers. The customers are the advertisers. And then people are finding ways to exploit that. And then as our laws have changed, then it actually gets to the point where there could be discrimination and other things that occur. And I just wanted to just have my perspective on this, as opposed to some sort of academic, talking about this.
There you go. Do you discuss AI and some of the complications and maybe ways that we can resolve, different AI seems to be this quite emerging technology that it's kind of the Wild West a little bit right now.
Yeah, I'm actually, it was kind of fortunate because a lot of my companies that I've invested in, plus the companies that I really started investing AI a number of years ago. And I just kind of felt that when I was writing this book last year, that I could see that the large tech players were making very large investments. It's clearly exploded. Everything's, Chat GPT, DALL-E, this whole generative stuff. But AI has been around for a long time. And so I really wanted to explain what AI is to people. I wanted to tell people how it could be used, especially like in the medical space, incredibly positive things that are happening, in areas such as that. But because humans write AI, bias can seep in, or it can be exploited. And you probably are familiar with the concept of deep fakes, right? And there's
Yeah.
like deep fake pornography, et cetera. So, and there's things called dark patterns that trick people and fool people. So there's good, but we do need to put guardrails to make sure that we don't become exploited by this technology that basically is getting closer and closer to thinking like humans. And when we have one of those, when we have some of that stuff, we probably need to put a few guardrails in.
There you go. In fact, I just posted on my Facebook today, and it was from August 7th from Wired Magazine. Criminals have created their own Chat GPT clones, and they're running around basically using them as fake scams and ways to collect their own data, probably for illicit uses. And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. One of the books like yours that offer solutions are really important, because you look at when people go to Congress and talk to these congressmen, they have no clue what's going on, and then they don't have no clue what's going on when people go talk to them in the Congress and about the problems. You see it's almost like a carnival. When the senator, House members saying, if I move the phone over here, do you know exactly? Weird shit like that, where you're just like, you have no idea what's going on, and you're the guy who's supposed to regulate these people and these companies.
Yeah, no, it was really funny. I remember, we all know, like, the late Senator Orrin Hatch, said, well, how do you make money, Mark Zuckerberg? And, we do advertising, right? But just recently, the CEO of Google was being asked by a congressperson, like, okay, tell me about this iPhone thing, right? And I got this problem with this iPhone, and like his response was, Congressman, we don't do iPhone, right? So yeah, and so part of it was that not only for individuals, but providing a road, just try to like explain it to your Uncle Larry or someone that cares, etc. So I wanted to boil it down, connect the dots. And so an average politician could read this and say, aha, I get it. This is why we need a privacy law. This is why we need guardrails. This is why we need to address some monopoly issues, because the reality is that here in Silicon Valley, we have no fly zones for startups.
Wow.
Like people will just, like, if I come to, say you're an investor and say, hey, I got this great idea for a search engine, you just start laughing, right? Because who's going to compete against Google, right? Or
Yeah.
I got a great idea for a mobile operating system. I mean, people just laugh because you can't compete with it right there. And so we now have major sectors of our economy that are off limits to people such as myself in Silicon Valley. And so having such concentration of power is also of significant concerns, and exasperates the problems of surveillance and AI when you have all the eggs in one basket.
Hey, I've got an idea for Silicon Valley, no fly zone sort of stuff. I want to buy a texting social media company for 5 times its true value, and then run off the advertisers, and then eventually run it into bankruptcy. Oh shit, that's already been done. I forgot. Okay, yeah, all right, that's a no fly zone there. Twitter, X, whatever the fuck it's called this week.
Here in Silicon Valley, there's a saying: if how can you make a small fortune? Start with a large fortune, right? And so I think he has enough fortune to be able to write that off.
Sure, yeah.
He should probably stick to satellites and cars versus social media.
There you go. I mean, you got to have that write-off pet project, right? I mean, you got to have that deduction for the taxes. So there you go. But it's fun to watch. It's kind of like Cops or Cheaters. It's fun.
It's more like a slow motion crash.
Car crash. Yeah, everyone likes watching that. You just tune into that. I used to do a thing with Cops where I would watch Cops anytime I was depressed, and I was like, my life is horrible. Everything is wrong. I just should give up. And then you watch Cops for 2 hours, and you're like, my life is fucking awesome. Look at these people. Anyway, hey, whatever turns the wheels. So give us some different steps. I think a lot of people talk about, they have this attitude that like, well, I'm sure they're big companies and they'll do the right thing. Is there a fallacy with people that believe that money and bigness means a company will do the right thing?
Well, the problem is that you're not their customer, you're their
Oh.
product,
Ah,
right? So it
damn
kind
it.
of starts from that, right? So they're very much focused on satisfying who their customers are, which is advertisers, which they say, oh, you want to advertise to women between the age of 20 and 30 that are pregnant, right? And they can like slice and dice, and they can give you that targeted advertising, just like we're so used to. We shop for red shoes, and for the next 5 weeks, every web page has a red shoe. They're really good at that, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that if you can target someone, women 20 with young kids, etc., you can use that to exclude people from ads for rental units, from
Oh.
loans, etc. So they don't see that. That's where the weaponization can begin. And then, to be not wanting to get overtly political, but we're in a post-abortion rights America, and now stuff that you used to be able to do in terms of your Google search, am I pregnant? Where's this, that, and the other thing, that's now illegal in some states, right?
Wow.
And so that data can be used against you, right?
Mhm.
And so then it becomes like, do we really need to collect? Is it really safe and sane to collect all this information? And in some cases, I don't think they set out to be evil, but they don't understand the unintended consequences. Especially, the best example of this is they design products for their fellow tech bros, right? They don't realize that kids are signing up to this,
Yeah.
and kids cannot get out of rabbit holes when all those ads and all those postings kind of push them in a certain direction towards drugs or alcohol, or now we have a lot of conspiracy theories, et cetera, because that's the stuff that people like, and it gets amplified, et cetera. And so, yeah, it was cool that the algorithmic amplification was for the cat video, right? But now it's for other things, and that's just not healthy for society.
There you go. And the dopamine hits that social media has delivered, the algorithms have delivered, sheer manipulation. I mean, on one hand, I mean, it's entertaining, but I've been one of those people, especially during COVID when we were in lockdown, where I would, I go to bed about 1 or 2 or something, and I start flipping through TikTok, and then suddenly the sun's up, and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things. And where you and I probably grew up in a world where we didn't have, we probably were spin dialing phones. We didn't have these, constant beep, 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 notification, notification. We had this semblance of human interaction, looking at each other face to face, talking, meeting, there was all of that. But now these kids, they're being raised on a thing. We've had people on the show that are scientists, and they said one of the biggest problems that we have is we're really not genetically designed, or we haven't adapted to looking at 2D screens. We're used to looking at each other's faces and seeing, the blink, the movement, and also being close to each other and feeling each other's energy or vibe, or seeing it, touching each other, shaking hands. This is why politicians shake hands and kiss babies. There's something to the touch that we have. And so all these people are, it kind of, I think, desensitizes people.
Look, here's the deal. The motivation of their business models are to serve ads, and to better serve ads, it's to collect as much information and to keep you on as long as possible. So it becomes a hamster wheel, right?
Mhm.
And you're right that people say TikTok knows me better than I know myself, right? And so each video that you're watching, TikTok is actually collecting your swipes, your likes, etc., and they're feeding that into the algorithm. And so we as humans, it's very hard to adapt, because, for example, if we see a flashing red light, that's danger, and we're used to that. But now our phone is like lighting up like a Christmas tree with all these notifications, right? And then the problem is that kids, because they're the oh boy, kids don't want to miss, fear of missing out, right?
Yeah.
And so if they get that notification at 10 o'clock at night, of course they need to look at it, right?
Mhm.
And so, I think another fundamental thing that I bring up in the book, I have a whole chapter on this, is that we've in the end in the physical world, we've designed things with kids in mind, right? That's why we have kids' car seats, right? That's why lead paint. That's why, look at the jungle gyms from when we were a kid, all concrete, and everyone had a broken arm by the time they graduated. But now they're all wood chips and things. But we don't do that in the online world, right?
Yeah.
It's the same user interface for kids, and they're the most susceptible, and they give most into peer pressure, et cetera. So I think I'm just trying to raise awareness, but I also trying to provide solutions like, hey, here's things that we can do. And it turns out tech really wants to keep it it's so complex and all that. No, actually, there's some really simple solutions.
There you go.
Yeah.
And even worse, what you mentioned with the hamster wheel, I need to tape that to the top of my phone. Get off the hamster wheel, dummy. Maybe tattoo it to my thumb so that when I'm sitting there on the phone. Here's what's worse. They've trained me not only to do the hamster wheel, but to run the hamster wheel on myself. So with TikTok, I've learned that what I watch for any sort of length of time beyond a few seconds, they're going to keep feeding me more of that. So if I see something stupid, annoying, or ignorant, because I don't like everything, I'm pretty particular, that comes through my feed, I know, hey, you need to swipe that really quick, because otherwise TikTok's going to feed idiot more of that. And so I've learned to train the algorithm onto myself. Is that not like you're
hacking the algorithm? I mean, you're trying to hack the algorithm, but it gets worse from a society perspective. Is that everyone is trying to hack take search, for example. The most, everyone now tells you just, you got to write your web page or your blog for SEO perspective because you want it higher ranked, and so everything is now becoming more and more artificial. And then in terms of to feed the algorithm so the content gets there, so clickbait floats to the top, then Google, Amazon are saying, well, if you really want to be on the top, you have to pay us. And so if you compare the Google search result page from 10 or 15 years ago to now, before it was so simple with a few little ads in the corner. Now it's just like ads all over the place. Okay. Yeah. So we have a fundamental problem in which the tech companies, we're adjusting our lives, we're adjusting our content to the tech companies, and now we're in a situation is that people are using AI to create fake books in the names of authors on Amazon, right?
Really?
People are doing fake travel books. It was in the New York Times yesterday.
Yeah, I just saw the travel one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they putting those in the name of the?
Sometimes in the name or a name, a similar name, like Best Guidebook to France, and they use AI to scrape this together. It's all print on demand, and it's being faked, and so we have this downward spiral of inauthenticity, and then AI can further exasperate it. And again, there needs to be more pressure put on the tech companies to actually provide more filtering, especially of fraudulent posts and products.
I realized when I was discussing with telling you how TikTok has actually trained me to game myself. It gave me this this image in my head that started with, wow, I'm a person who lives in a prison. And I think it's special that I get to pick my jail cell, and I go to my jail cell every day and then lock myself in it. I don't even have to have jailers. I'm just doing it to myself. And then when I want to, I go out of my TikTok jail cell and I go over to my Twitter jail cell, and I'm gaming all these. So I'm designing my jail cells so they look pretty and they're very comfortable. But really, I'm living in what you're talking about in your book, where I've got certain civil rights I need to be concerned about. I've got my privacy and different things, but I'm literally wandering out a giant technological tube in the sky of jail cells where I'm going, let's go to Facebook jail cell today and sit in here for a while and figure out how we can make this look a little bit better. But I'm going to lock myself in here, and I'm actually going to be the monkey who runs the jail cell but puts myself in a cell.
Yeah.
That seems insane.
I think no, you're right. But the key solution is that they keep you in the jail cell by personalizing things, and the personalization is based on data. So the key thing is, and I talk about this in the book, is you need to reduce your digital exhaust, your data footprint. Okay. And there's ways that you can actually do that dramatically cut back by just flipping a few switches. Like on the iPhone, they introduced this app tracking transparency, ATT, not to be confused with AT&T, where you block third-party trackers. When Apple announced that, the next earnings call that Meta had, the owner of Facebook, said, we're going to be short $10 billion in revenue because of the data flow being cut off. Okay. Now, on Google, which is basically an advertising company, on the Android devices, they don't have something similar to ATT to block third-party trackers, but you can download a product called DuckDuckGo. It's an alternative browser. You don't have to use it for browser, but it also blocks the tracking that happens. And so all of a sudden your data footprint of all this data going to the big tech companies and data brokers gets dramatically reduced. And then another thing you can do is on your PC, there's a free plugin from a privacy nonprofit called EFF called Privacy Badger. It blocks all the third-party cookies and tracking. Once you put those in place, oh my gosh, you actually no longer start seeing the red dress or the red shoes or the toilet that you shopped for 3 months ago, showing up on every website, et cetera. And it dramatically reduces your footprint, which means the personalization stops to keep you on the hamster wheel.
There you go. One of the other things too is you and I grew up in an era where the stuff we did as kids that may have been a little nefarious. I think I stole a candy bar when I was 5, and my mom made me go back and take it back, and I was crying. And of course, I was like 5 or so, 7 or something. I remember being just a child, and I took a candy bar because I don't know. I don't think I even completed to understand what the whole concept of money and stuff was. And but she took me back and taught me a good lesson I learned. But stuff like that isn't on the internet. And I've seen these employers now that have these tools where they can scrape like all of your social media accounts. They can do a deep dive of seemingly every place you've been. I've seen some pretty interesting ones, and then hold it against you and be like, oh, well, in 1995, I don't know, told someone to F off or something. We saw a lot of that with the Me Too era where, stuff that people were doing. I mean, there was some very egregious things that needed to be addressed there and some really horror monsters. But I mean, you had people, you're like at 95, you use the N word. How do we square that? How do we reconcile that? Is the person in 1995 still the same person today, et cetera, et cetera? So, how do we resolve some of that? How do we square some of that paradigm where, it's I don't know about holding it against people's rights for jobs. It seems like there's some issues there. If you're, somebody's, I don't know, they don't like the flavor of ice cream that you post on your Facebook or something. I don't know.
Well, that's a big issue because you're right that an employer, I mean, there's one thing about, you don't want a crazy racist, join your company, right? Et cetera, right?
Or a racist running your HR department that's making those choices.
Yeah, or you, certainly there's value right there. But if you're posting photos of on social that, hey, great news, I'm pregnant, right? And an employer looks at that and they can say, I don't know if I necessarily want to hire a woman. Yeah. So that's the issues right there. So again, it's like people don't think about, and the tech companies also don't think about the unintended consequences. And so their motivation is to build what they call a network effect, which is get more users. And then once more users on, it attracts other people as well. And so their motivation is by default to have everyone's social profile set to public, right? Which is terrible when a child signs up because you have creepoids, purposely looking for public profiles of kids that are clearly underage. And then also you have the scraping going on where background check companies will add that to their arsenal of, we'll also scan social, right? And they'll dig up that photo when you got completely drunk and you threw up, and they may say, I don't want this, this alcoholic or whatever, but that was the one time in college you drank too much, right?
Yeah.
And so my recommendation, further to reduce the data footprint is that you actually you cannot put your social stuff as public, right? That's
Hmm.
with the exception of something like more of a professional setting like LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And for God's sakes, please, if you send a resume, make sure it syncs with whatever you have in LinkedIn. I've seen so many cases of people like having the resume and then something separate in LinkedIn as well, and people saying, "Wait a minute," right there. So you just have to become more conscious. But it's about reducing the data footprint, and then just if you do want to have a public persona, make it more of a professional one.
There you go. Whatever you lied about on your resume, make sure you lie about on LinkedIn. Uh, I
Sync
used
the
to be
two.
I used to be really good at finding out bullshit in people's resumes, and a lot of times there are dates. There'll be dates and different things. Let me ask you about this because I've dated all my life, and I remember the first time that I had a girlfriend send me a sexting pic, and I remember thinking in my head, because I own lots of companies and I don't know how that's pertinent, but I remember in my head thinking, this this is going to go all wrong if people start doing this. Like, because you've sent me something that's public. If we ever broke up and I want to be an asshole, I could do this. If I sent you something, you could do it. I don't want my body parts on the internet, but I'm kind of old world, like I said before. But the thing I see in dating now, because I'm single and I've dated all my life, is this trend, especially with young people, where they're sending body parts to each other over Snapchat. Like, it goes out of style. In fact, it's really big with a lot of the guys that hit on young ladies that go, "Hey, send me your Snapchat," and of course the images start coming. And well, these are a lot of young people. I've started talking about this for a while now, where I'm like, we're going to have a generation of people that are so used to sexting each other, and these images are stored somewhere on the internet, if not on phones and people's Google Drives, and like on my photos go up to Google Photos for my dogs and stuff. Um, and we're going to have somebody running for House Speaker of Congress or politician or president of the United States, man or woman. And somebody's going to go, "Hey, I got a really cool picture of something very private about them that they sent me in 2001." And, these people are going to be 40 years old. They're going to have a wife and kids, or a husband and kids. And they're trying to maybe do some serious, CEO of IBM's, whatever. And they're going to have these naked images floating around. And I'm astounded by how much scale there is to it. And so I don't know if that fits into your idea of privacy and civil
Well,
rights and stuff,
it
but
it does. I mean, I actually, when you and I were a kid, we took a technology class, and that was called typing, right? And that was actually my favorite class in high school. And I was like, I'm gonna like out type everyone else. I forget what my, like this. I mean, that was my my competitive juices went out. But I really do think we actually need to have have kids take a course in high school
yeah,
about modern day technology and explain to them that you know how these companies make money, how you can be scammed. I mean, one of the big scams going around is interns
mhm.
that join a company over college, and all of a sudden they're getting texts from the CEOs of the company and say, "Hey, I'm in a lunch meeting. Can you run out and
Oh, yeah.
get me an Apple gift card, and then send it to me, and I'll pay you back because I'm busy in the meeting." Of course, you're like the 19-year-old intern. You're like, oh, you drop everything, you run, you spend a couple $100, and all of a sudden you've been scammed out of $500,000 of gift cards. And so there's the whole fraud that's going on, the phishing, the fraud that's going on. But then there's also that people just don't understand the consequences of oversharing information and how it can resurface, because once it's on the internet, it's
It's there forever.
stored somewhere.
Uh,
There's no, I mean, even like you Snapchat, someone's got a phone and click, right, and they're taking a photo of your phone. And so people need to be aware, especially at the younger ages, that just like we were taught shop class, we were taught typing, we need a tech safety hygiene course.
There you go. The OnlyFans, women have dabbled in the OnlyFans, and most OnlyFans don't make a lot of money. Actually, if you do the stats, there's a lot of people complaining now. They're like, "Oh, I didn't understand that if I started that, it's now on the internet forever, and it's impacting my ability to get jobs. It's impacting."
People you do it once, people record it, and
Mhm.
then they offer it for free, and
Yeah.
so you may have gotten that $20, $25, it's et cetera, but now it's out there,
Mhm.
et cetera. So it's and then the thing is, or they'll record it and then they'll use AI to slightly change the voice, the
Mhm.
image, it's et cetera. So look, I mean, we do need to better educate people about, how data is collected and can be used against people. And it starts with identity theft. It starts with potential, digital redlining and discrimination. Like to your point, like people are not getting jobs or not getting a loan because of something that may have been posted or some data that implies that they can't pay it, et cetera. And most of the data that, especially these data brokers have, 50% of the data is incorrect, but
Oh,
decisions are
wow.
being made based on it.
Yeah, I've even, I've had friends and myself. We've Googled ourselves in AI, and you're like, you have the wrong guy, and you have the
Hmm.
wrong data, and you've mixed this guy with that guy, and like
Yeah.
and you're just like, wow, I hope this gets better, but
But they call it hallucinating. It's
is
called
that what it
AI.
is?
There's a term in Silicon Valley. It's called AI hallucination.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, like the term sounds like it's actually a cool term. Like, oh, he's hallucinating, like he's on drug, like it's a good trip. He's having a good trip. But actually, it's not good, right? When you actually put something in Chat GPT and like tell me more about this individual, and it gets the information wrong. And AI can further be used not only for identity theft, but further push out disinformation and misinformation in society. So we need personal guardrails, but we also need policy guardrails. And the scary thing
Mhm.
is that in the United States, unlike all the other major countries, we do not have a national online privacy law. Okay.
Oh,
Now I'm in California. I worked on the campaign to pass the California Privacy Rights Act in 2020. So we're one of now 12 states, but the other 38 states in the US do not have a comprehensive privacy law. So I have the right to tell a business to delete my data. But if
mm,
you're in Alabama, and you say I want you to delete my data, that the business can actually say, no, I don't have to delete your data. And it's like,
mhm.
we need a basic online bill of rights, for the digital age. And it's been frustrating that we don't have that yet, at the federal level.
Yeah, it's frustrating that these big companies, they can just lean on the politicians and of course fund them and buy all this stuff. We've had a lot of discussion that with Citizens United and SCOTUS and different things. Any suggestions you want to tease out? Do you think we need to do to relegate stuff? I mean, obviously democracy is a big thing in the news right now. We're dealing with, having our elections being leaned on in 2016 by, oh, I can't remember the name of the companies, but I mean, Brexit and us went through that with
Yes.
Facebook and stuff like that, and of course, social media was used for January 6th, and so that's being litigated right now. But definitely, protecting our voting, protecting our elections, protecting truth. That seems to be the hardest thing to do anymore.
Well, I think the key thing is actually, I do have one proposal, and let me run it by you, which is, and this actually comes up even with like at colleges and high schools. I, a family friend had a daughter and she was told to in high school and she was told to write an essay like how to get into a good college, and she wrote a very funny essay which is, I'm going to move to Montana, I'm going to take up the bassoon, like trying to play the whole demographics thing, right? And I mean that was a funny, you're laughing, it was funny.
Yeah.
You know what the teacher said? Oh, this is too funny, it was written by AI. And so she was accused of that, right? And then
Wow.
then it got escalated. And so, but now what about political ads or things that are happening? And so I fundamentally believe that we need the ability for us to take a document, an image, a URL, and be able to ask the large generative AI providers, did you generate this? Yes or no? Like,
Mhm.
take a URL and go to OpenAI/verify, put the URL in, hit go, and it has to come back and said, no, I didn't generate it, or yes, I generated this on August 3rd at 2:38 p.m. And
Ah.
that, so what we need is, with AI, we need transparency, right?
Mhm.
Is it real or is it human? I also feel like when we're with on an online chat or even talking to someone on the phone, sometimes you get the feeling like when you're talking to someone on the phone, I don't know if this is a human or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we
I do
really
that with
need.
my mom. I'm just kidding. She's wonderful.
So we need like a star 411 or like a prompt that we can type in the chat and say, you know, some sort of signal that says,
Mhm.
is this real or not? And have the ability. This is the worst when you try to call someone and then you get the whole recorded messages. There should be by default like some sort of star 6 or something like that, or star 411, that they force them to actually have you talk to a human,
Yeah.
right? And so we're getting to the point where AI and it's going to get worse because of the generative aspect, that they can actually on the fly kind of try to solve your tech support problem, etc. But at some point, got to say, bang, I need to talk to a real person right here, because I'm not getting anywhere.
That's
And the
true.
same thing with text and images. We need the ability to know, is this photo of XYZ politician slipping on a banana, is it real or was it created by AI?
There you go. And we're already seeing that politician deepfakes and different things.
Yep.
Some of the things you've covered. I actually had a friend who, and he was just trying to be funny and interesting, because I'm pretty funny on Facebook, or I think I'm funny. Let's put it that way. I'm a megalomaniac and narcissist, I guess. I think he's funny, and so I posted something that was, I don't know, whatever I was bitching about or rapping about or whatever. I usually try and do snarky stuff on our stuff I see as ironic or silly in human nature. And so it was a private post. I've had to start privatizing all my Facebook, because I get all these AI. I guess they're AI, or they're these bots that are clearly run out of probably Africa and Nigeria, that they look like some sort of Asian young lady, and they're clearly, that's not who is writing me, and they're always hijacking the comments. So I've had to move to privacy. So I had a friend actually take one of my things that I said, which is kind of critical, and I didn't want to put out in the public sphere, and he put it into chat GPT. The post was marked private. He put the thing into chat GPT and told it to write kind of a funny spin on what Chris Voss was defining here and what Chris Voss is about. And I'm like, and when he reposted my comments, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Did you just take something that's private to me and put it into chat GPT, and now that shit is buying what's real? And so we have that probably coming more in the future, where politicians will be seen maybe having heart attacks or faking health problems or whatever the case may be. It's probably going to get really weird by 2024 presidential elections.
Absolutely. I mean, we do need a kind of a Bill of Rights, and it starts with having nutrition labels, right? I
Mhm.
mean, so if you kind of look at the evolution of like food safety or car safety, this is all consumer protection. It first started with a label that says, 80% of this was created by AI. Um,
Mhm.
and then it gets into transparency. Is this AI or not? With my proposal to be able to ask the AI, with also they can't keep the information. So if I have a text document that I want to say, did you generate or not, they can't turn around and start using it themselves. So that's part of the proposal that I put forth in the book. But
Yeah.
the whole thing is that it's about guardrails, and the same evolution that happened with like car safety. Like, if you have a kid, a young baby, you wouldn't probably just have them in the lap. You probably would have the whole baby seat, etc. Wipers, airbags, etc. And we need wipers, airbags, kids' car seats, as with AI and this technology as well. And just, of course, yeah, the automobile industry 50 years ago, they didn't want to put a wiper that worked on
Or seatbelt.
or seatbelt and all that stuff because that would add 30 cents of to the production or whatever. But it's, look, we're not trying to, I'm not proposing that we make the tech industry like the airline industry where it's, but we need to make it more like the car industry where there's rules to the road, there's some basic safety with the actual equipment, et cetera. And that's what we need to do is we need to empower both individuals as well as tell policymakers that this AI wave is coming and you got to do something because, boy, it's going to be really bad if we don't jump in here.
There you go. Is it Section 230, the law that gives social media networks kind of some real leeway? And we had some challenges that with the 2016 election and the January 6th and other different things. What do you think about that law? Does that law need to be updated or changed? Or
Yeah, so that's the law is called the CDA, right? And the Communications Decency Act, Section 230, and it basically is like the Magna Carta of the internet, which is that that if you're a platform provider, you do not have to worry about what is actually posted. So you're not technically like a publisher. Like if the New York Times, posted something, they could or Fox News, like what recently happened, they could be sued for defamation. But basically, but on the Facebook platform, Google, YouTube, if the same type of things that were posted about Dominion and all that stuff was there, Google's like, hey, we're not a publisher. Section 230 protects us, et cetera, right? And so I understand. And so it hasn't been whacked away, and it has allowed these large tech platforms not to have to worry about content curation. But we're now in a situation in which algorithms are amplifying the content. And so I think the fundamental issue is that when you have algorithms amplifying content, does that not actually start leading them into becoming an actual publisher because they're putting their thumb on the scale of what content gets seen or not? And so that's the interesting debate that we're having. And I do think that there can be some reforms to Section 230, again, which is basically the consumers need to have rights to, if they see something on the platform, they should have the right to object and have the tech company respond in a timely manner, as opposed to basically getting poop emojis coming back and saying we don't care, right?
Yeah. We've seen the viral, they always claim, well, there's no way we can catch these Facebook live videos. And, as soon as something starts going crazy, but I don't know, maybe they're getting better at, but maybe it seems like, TikTok knows within a few different adjustments that I make that it will change the algorithm for me. I can manipulate the algorithm.
Yeah.
And just by what I watch, and if I watch about 5 videos of I don't know, like I started watching some of the Maui, Hawaii fires last night, because I was really heartfelt about the crisis that was going on there with everything burning. And of course, naturally, my feed changed. It's all, Hawaii stuff and things burning. And so I was able to basically tune in, if you will. And what's interesting to me is, we've seen these terrorist shooters that have gone onto Facebook and shot up churches and different things, streaming it live. And they're like, well, there's no way we can catch that. And you're like, I can change the algorithm as on my own. Recently, just today, they were talking today about President Biden was coming to Utah. There was somebody online who started threatening to possibly go after him with weapons and do harm. And of course, the social media people, I guess, picked up on it, alerted the FBI and all that good stuff. So they have ways of identifying this stuff. It's just whether they really care enough or want to have that semblance enough to go, is more harm bad than good, I guess.
Look, we should have freedom of speech, but there shouldn't be freedom of amplification and reach. And the funny thing is that within 10 seconds of you looking for a red shoe, all of a sudden, every website has the red shoe. So if they're smart enough to do within 10 seconds, figure that out, I agree with you. They just needs to be more pushing And 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 one way you can do it is you can require some of the information to be made available to researchers for analysis that can feed back, and they've been blocking that. And then the other thing is that there should be kind of a customer complaint where they do have to respond to that. And you could also limit the complaints to say, these are the 100 organizations that have been vetted, and these are the ones that we'll listen to, and they can do the filtering as well. So there are solutions to this, right? Look, I don't want to, the internet, people can spout out crazy ideas, et cetera, but those, and just like someone can walk around and swing a stick as they walk down the street, but it ends at the tip of my nose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think that, and there needs to be a mechanism for empowering consumers to be able to flag this and maybe to one of these 100 organizations that analyzes it and then officially gives the a feedback to Meta or Google or whomever, et cetera. So there does need to be amendments to the CDA, which has that Section 230 that gives them kind of carte blanche to not be considered a publisher.
There you go. I saw, like, I don't know where these are. They're fairly timely, fairly old. Not two, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, somebody, some very big name news agencies had done the digging, and they'd found that they did some experimenting too, and I think they work with some agencies that deal with child trafficking. But they found that as soon as young people join Instagram that are underage, they will immediately start getting swamped by predators. Yes. and everything else, and it's like I think they timed it. It was like within 15 minutes to a half an hour.
Yeah, and I talk about that in the book Containing Big Tech in the chapter on kids safety, and it goes to the point where Instagram wants network effects, and so by default the switch is set to public for new accounts, right? And so California actually passed a law last year called the Age Appropriate Design Code, AADC, which is based on a UK regulation that actually mandates that for kids under 18, that the settings should by default be set to private versus public, right? Wow. Here's another example. These tech companies should be banned from sending notifications after 10 p.m. at night for maybe kids up to 16 and maybe up to midnight for kids under 18. They can do that, right? Because there's nothing worse like, you and I probably deal with this, or like our phone is going off with notifications at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, but we're used to just like, oh, just forget about it. But a kid, it's like, oh my God, what if a friend posted and I don't respond with a smiley face within 30 seconds? Am I going to lose the friendship? So there are ways that you can design tech products with kids in mind, much like we've made that evolution with kids online safety in the physical world. We should do that as well. And those are a couple of examples that you did a great job of highlighting. This, like, you need to make these accounts private by default, and it's up to the tech companies to do it.
Yeah. We've even had people on the show that talk about ways to protect your kids where, you make sure that they don't post anything that shows a background that might give their location. Even exfil tags on photos that tell locations.
Yes.
Make sure that, you have that blocked. We've had some people on the show that talked about different ways to protect your children. And it's interesting to me, what I'm leading up to is, as human beings, we assess and evaluate the wrong things. We think about, like a terrorist is going to blow us up. Well, the odds of that, the odds sequence of just about anything, we over amplify, and we worry about the wrong things. Like maybe we need to. But what I'm trying to get to is we need to demand more of our politicians and demand more of them to look into this, more of them to design rights. And we get led around by the nose by a lot of these, political things, and maybe regulating some of the stuff that we've talked about today, especially for kids, et cetera, protecting, maybe helping regulate some of the dopamine hits that are out, because I know people that are addicted to the dopamine hit. and the likes and the attention and the validation they get. A lot of women are wrapped up in that. It's they're just constantly in their phones, and that attention, that dopamine hit. There are people that are literally addicted to it. They can't put their phones down. They can't live without them. But we need to demand more of our politicians. Maybe having somebody from the LGBT community read to your kids at a school isn't quite as dangerous as, or even dangerous as, your kid being on social media and you don't know who's talking to them in their DMs.
Well, look, I mean, there was a lot of concern about TikTok because in the end, the parent company is China-based, and like, oh my God, all the people in China, this Chinese government could get access to your swipes and your likes and all that stuff. But the funny thing is, the same data collection is being done by Meta, Google, Snapchat, etc., right? And there's nothing stopping a third-party entity from using a credit card to advertise and push you in certain directions. And so it's fundamentally, we need data privacy rights, and we as consumers need to reduce the digital exhaust that we give out. And that's just so critical in today's digital age. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Just the level of addictiveness of technology, it's just out of control. And I worry most about kids that don't have the natural, that if we see a rabbit hole, or we see, as you said, some people that are from that are posting things that you can probably immediately tell that that's not a real person. But a 13-year-old kid that gets a high from someone, they don't know who it is, right? They don't have the guardrails, and that's scary.
I remember like 10 or 15 years ago, my sister was complaining about her computer, and I was like, what's going on? Yeah, it's not working well. Can you help me with it? So I went over to her place, and she had like 20 of those button bars. Remember those button bars were like the thing? And she had 20 of them actively working that covered half the screen. And I'm like, how do you use this thing? But she signed up for everything.
Yeah, no, it goes back. I think we do need, just like, you and I went to shop class to learn, put the glasses on, learn how to cut a piece of wood. And of course, typewriting, my favorite course. Boom, 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 boom.
The only thing I learned in school that had any value.
Yeah, well, the typewriting course was the best for me. But no, I think we do need to raise awareness of these issues and start it young.
And I think also we need to have a class that teaches what this does to our brain. Like, we've had neurologists on that have talked about this, and the dopamine hit, the fear of missing out, and the emotions it creates. There's a lot of young girls that they've done articles on that have talked about the depression that they feel.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because you're able to go, well, I don't look like this girl and that girl, and and then the infighting, the competition. There's people that commit suicide over some sort of attack, or even there were suicides of young boys who had gotten fished by predators and then told that they were going to exploit their photos, and these kids were, I think, under 10 or teenagers.
Yeah,
and they off themselves because over the shame. Anyway, I highly recommend people look at your book and understand what's going on, read it, and all that good stuff. Give me your .com, Tom, so people can find out more in the
internet. Yeah, it's tomkemp.ai, TOMKEMP.ai, and you can just click there to order the book. It's going to be out on August 22nd, but it's fully available for pre-order. It's an ebook, audiobook, and then good old paper.
There you go. Demand more from everybody. Our politicians, help with the economy, democracy, and civil rights. These are all important things, and understand how bad you're being spied on. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. It's available August 22nd, 2023. Containing Big Tech: How to Protect Our Civil Rights, Economy, and Democracy. Something everyone should really be thinking about, because AI is kind of, wow, it just opened the Wild West. And every one of these technologies, I remember when Twitter came out and we're like, hey, we can talk to everyone in the world and kumbaya, and it's John Lennon's Imagine, which song I love, and we can all be one big happy family. And between governments who went, what, you opened a Pandora's box, let's see what we can do with that thing, some evil. And then Mark Zuckerberg, throw some shit there. So anyway, order up the book wherever fine books are sold. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. All those places we are on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.